Okay, well, behind me is the new Lamborghini Huracan, and one of those cars I've been itching to have a go in. I've heard mixed reports about this car. On the one hand, it's 600 horsepower, it's a new baby Lamborghini, and it has all the styling, etc. But there's been a little bit of criticism about the way it handles on track and about the steering rack. And I mentioned this to Lamborghini. I drove one at a test track last week, and just mentioned that the steering, I loved everything about the car, much more than I was expecting, but the steering just felt a little forced. And I said, we have a car coming into the country that you might like with the standard steering. Would you like a go? Well, behind me is that car. And I'm particularly keen on experimenting with this car because on the other side, as many of you will know, I'm an owner of a Countach, had it for years. That is for me the definition of Lamborghini, and I want to find how much of that DNA has found its way into the new Lamborghini Huracan. The entry-level Lamborghini, if there is such a thing, is a 200-mile-an-hour car, and it looks pretty damn special. Well, let's have a closer look. Now, there's not many cars you can park next to a Countach and it's still grabbing your eye for attention, but I think the Huracan is one of those cars, especially when painted in this green. If I ever ordered a new Lamborghini, I'd be mighty tempted to tick this box. I mean, it's such a dramatic shape. Okay, I think they've absolutely nailed this car because we all adored the Aventador, and the customers are queuing up at showrooms because it is the definitive supercar at the moment. This Huracan has captured a lot of that DNA, that super sharp look. I can remember the launch of the Gallardo. It was 11 years ago, and Luke Doncrevolt, as we were leaving the hotel, handed me this knife that defined the sharp edge of Gallardo. I've still got it now. It's one of those treasured possessions of years ago running Evo magazine. But this Huracan, I have to say, when this turned up, the family were leaping with excitement. That's exactly what I want a Lamborghini to do, and this has it in spades. Some of the shapes you can see that are inherited from the Countach. If you look at the front of a Countach, it has that screen. You see at the bottom of the screen that sort of sharp cuts at the bottom, distinctive sort of shape, and then very angled and to the flat top of the screen. If we come over to the Huracan, you can see that on that edge of the boot line of the wipers. It's that same look, but what it's introduced is this sort of eyes of it. It's this devil look, and the way they've accentuated the splitter and made it body colour, and you have those scoops down below. I wish all UK cars could run with Italian plates as well, because they look extra cool. Size of the wheels as well, these spidery looks that we're sort of getting used to from Lamborghini, and now with standard carbon brakes rather than just being an option. But for me, the defining thing are those wing mirrors, the way they jut out. I can remember when Luke Doncrevolt, he told me how he came up with this idea in the middle of the night, and it was one of those moments where he said, I had to sketch it straight away. And he got up, and it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and he sketched this idea of the mirror coming forward, the stalk going forward, and then the mirror pointing back. And to this day, it's another real defining signature of the Lamborghini. I think it's terrific. More scoops at the back, and just like the Aventador, it has those scalps coming out down the roofline with sort of Zagato like with a double bubble leading down to this back, which you can either have, this is the optional one with a glass screen, and or you have the slats. Having driven both, I think I'd go for the slats, even though you can't quite see the engine. But wow, look at that, that is pure Lamborghini. Just love it, those quad pipes. Even next to the Countach, as I say, there aren't many cars that can compare in design and wackiness and wow factor, but I think the Huracan might have nailed it. Just like on the Gallardo, the Huracan doors are conventional, beautiful handle though, and this great structure, obviously extremely strong, this sort of high sill, and to get in there. We'll get in a moment. It's sort of a shame because that was one of the signatures of the Countach, and the scissor doors on the Countach yet to be beaten for scissor drama. I think only Koenigsegg can compete, really. We go inside, real Anglian, modern, and really terrific place to be. I like the way when we get in we'll see that it hasn't got a central screen, so instead of having a central screen, it's got a little screen, and that's just got some oil pressures and minor gauges, and all your sat nav, and instead of having that centre sort of sat nav screen, that's on the dash, and that also marries up, and you've got your reversing cameras there and all sorts of other things. You'll also notice no stalks. They work a lot better on this car than perhaps on the Ferrari 458, or all Ferraris have no stalks now for indicators and wipers and all the rest of it. But on here, they've used a mechanism just the same as you get on a motorbike, and I find it way more intuitive to use than on the Ferrari. So yeah, top marks of Lamborghini. They finally made a stalk-free sort of column driving environment really work, as far as I'm concerned. Starting button hides under a red wally thing, bursts into life. Like every, of course you get the blippy thing. I've fastened my seatbelt now. You get this wonderful noise. The V10 is a great engine. It sort of sits between V8 and V12, but it has the majesty of a V12 and just saves that little bit of weight. So it's whenever I see a V10 on the spec sheet, I say, this is going to be a good car, apart from when it's a VW and it's a diesel, which they did a V10 diesel for those that might remember, and that was a really laggy thing. It sort of had headline figures, but it wasn't great to drive, I always thought. Anyway, let's get on the way. As soon as I touch the paddle, I'm away, I'm in first, and you pull away. And like all cars of this day and age, it starts off in a sort of auto mode. We're warmed up, so we'll get straight onto action as soon as we hit the road. I had a sort of love-hate relationship with the Gallardo. I wanted to like it more than I actually did. And there were some frustrations with it, one of them being the gearbox. They were light years behind what was absolutely current with the gearbox. They had a single plate clutch and it was hesitant and it never really satisfied. Like Ferrari were always leaps ahead of where Lamborghini was. But in here I've got a 7-speed dual clutch transmission, and it's a transformation to anything that went before with Lamborghini. The Aventador still has a single plate clutch, and it's a more aggressive change than I've got on here. But this, I mean, I'm actually in auto mode at the moment, just as we set off, and it is just performs just as you want it to. It's a easy change, quick change. I've got some buttons here which we'll experiment with later, Strada, Sport and a Corsa, that does speed up the gear change. But immediately as I get in, I think, oh, I'm in a quite modern car here, really modern Lamborghini. The other thing, this car is fitted with magnetic ride dampers. Whatever you do, if you're ordering one of these cars, just tick that box. Again, it makes such a difference to a car. These cars are so fast now that if they had conventional springs and dampers, they have to go on the harder side of comfortable, really, just because they have to work so well at high speed as when you're normally driving it down the road. So with the magnetic ride, you get this adjustable damping, and it just makes for a way more comfortable ride. And I can't see any downside. I mean, the Porsche introduced it with GT3, I can remember what a change that was from 996 to 997. It's here on the Lamborghini, that's the box you've got to tick. The box you mustn't tick is the steering. Lamborghini dynamic steering they've introduced with this model, and that was what I was complaining about last week at the test. It just felt false. Each time you got into it and doing different speeds, you weren't quite sure what to expect. And I could see you never really get used to it. It was a bit of tech, a bit too far, that wasn't actually answering a question anyone's asked. The idea is it slows down the steering at high speed, so it's more stable at high speed. But really, how many times are we visiting 180 plus mile an hour? Very rarely, but we spend an awful lot of time at 30 to say 80, and I want the steering to work well in that range, and that's what this does, just the normal rack. So yeah, you've got, what's different with this car, I think, is it works well when you're just bumping along, which is not the Gallardo, where that was so strong. Just coming into town now, I'm looking at the traffic, I'm not worried about the gearbox, I'm hardly noticing it, and again, you wouldn't think you would notice a difference in brakes when you're just in town like this, but the Gallardo carbon brakes, oh dear me, They were grabby. I can remember used to Sant'Agata to Car of the Year and just dread what was going to be said about it, because it just made you feel clumsy. If you're getting in and out of other cars, that's when you really notice it. If a car's got a slight flaw, because you have to adjust into it, that you do over time. And Gallardo carbon brakes are a bit like that. Now I just got a normal progressive pedal, super. I mean, amazing level of braking on this car, but it's slow speed braking, which has changed so much and gets a big plus from me. We want to get onto some more exciting roads, because this car is not really designed to move around town, even though it now can. Managed to do it, because you know, obviously Ferrari's moving there with the 488 going over to turbos. Because of that four-wheel drive, you can just be a bit clumsy with the throttle and dump a lot of power to the wheels, and it just takes it, it just catapults you away. It's one of those fun cars to take passengers in, because they just don't expect it. Here we are, all serene, and off we go. I've seen some magazines are getting some serious acceleration signs out of this car. I'm not surprised. Lamborghini are claiming 3.2, but I've seen, well, the fastest I've seen is 2.6 to 60. I mean, just ballistic. And this is Lamborghini's baby car. I keep my mind thinking about Aventador, where this car compares to Aventador, and I don't enjoyed this issue of Harry's Garage, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in another car report very soon.